One of the most amazing things about traveling by yourself is the ability to spend time in the spa. I just took a solo vacation on the Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas, and it went to like the Bahamas and the Jamaica area, but I actually didn't get off the ship. I spent the entire week in the spa. I decided to make it kind of a health and wellness retreat. On this particular cruise, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't eating all the fried foods and desserts, crazy, I know. And surprisingly, I had probably the best cruise I've ever been on as far as the relaxed experience. When I came home, I wasn't in pain, I wasn't exhausted, I didn't need a vacation from my vacation. So here's how this works. Before you go on a cruise, if you're interested in a spa treatment, a lot of people, including myself up until now, will book their treatments before they go on the before you go on the cruise. And the reason for this is because maybe you got a deal offered, or maybe you're afraid that the spa is going to be too busy, or maybe you're trying to time block and plan your itinerary and you want to get that in there. That was me. I wanted to know when I was going, where I was going. Is it conflicting with something else that I have going on? And so I tend to book them in advance. But what happens is what my experience is, you get more deals once you're on the ship. And if you go take a tour of the spa, they're going to pitch you. They're going to try to sell you, and they're going to try to sell you packages that say, okay, well, if you get 3 treatments, then it's this much money. And there's other things as well. So when I got on the ship, I had already booked a 75-minute stone massage, and I had booked a 75-minute facial. Those were the 2 treatments that I was planning on having while I was there. Pretty standard for me. I have done things like seaweed wraps, which I loved, and mud things, and I do like playing around with some of that. But this particular time I had booked those 2, and that was it. Well, I went to the spa not to take a tour, but I went to change or talk to them about one of the treatments that I had that day. And while I was there, nobody was there. I had just gotten on the ship. I just happened to walk by the spa and said, let me go do this now. Nobody was there. She said, let me take you on a tour. So I grabbed my camera. We went around and took a tour. And I was immediately just feeling this call to spend the week in the spa. And I decided at that point, let me just make this week a wellness retreat and really just enjoy this. So how she upsold me that day is she showed me their thermal suite. And I'm not sure that I will ever go on another cruise where I don't book the thermal suite if I'm traveling by myself, or me and somebody like my mom or my daughter, something like that. Because sometimes I do pay for and take other people with me as well. I just took my mom to Alaska, and now that I'm back, I wish we would have had the thermal suite experience while we were on the Alaska trip, but I didn't know about it, because this is all, I've cruised a lot in my lifetime, but it was always with my kids, and it was always about the kids and my husband, and now I'm really experiencing the ship life in a totally different way. And so she showed me the thermal suite. The thermal suite has these thermal chairs that heat up, and it is not like laying on a heating pad. The whole chair heats up. You're feeling it on your calves and on your thighs. And I would put my feet up, my knees up, let my feet rest directly on the chair. But in this room, even though it's very small, there's only 4 or 5 chairs, I think it was. Even though it was very small, it wasn't very busy. There was only one time that I went into this room that I was about to turn around and couldn't get a chair, and somebody jumped up. They were done. So I got the chair. So there was never a time that I didn't get a chair. But inside this room, there were also 2 steam rooms, 2 showers, and a dry sauna as well. So I got a package that allowed me unlimited access to that room. And let me tell you, I used every penny of it. So what I would do is I would go get a treatment. So here's how the treatments worked. I had the stone massage. So if you've never done a hot stone massage, I highly recommend it. They heat up these stones, and they use the stones all over your body, and they'll press wherever you have more pain. And I just find them to be so therapeutic. This was not the best treatment I've ever had. In fact, out of all the treatments I've had, this was probably the worst. I was pretty convinced the girl was falling asleep while she was giving me the massage. It was very odd. But that overall, still, it was still a good experience. I know that sounds funny, but that's just was my experience. There wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, wow about that. I love when they do the stone massage and they put the stones in your hand and you close your hand, they kind of cup it around. It's so good. Ugh. But anyway, it was still good. It just wasn't phenomenal good. Now, the other one I had booked, the facial, I had the same kind of experience with that one. It was a good facial. She was amazing, 20-year-old, just so friendly. I loved her because she had done one of my other treatments. The facial was a really good facial, but it did not include any kind of massage. And sometimes I go in and they do a facial and they'll also do massage around the shoulders, and they didn't do that. So if that's something that's important to you, you got to ask. You got to find out. Do they do extractions? Do they do massage as part of it? But the facial was amazing. She was so good at what she did. But in my room, there was a coupon, and it was a coupon on each side. And on one side, it said, it was like a leg and foot salt scrub and massage, and it was an hour long. And I've never had an hour long treatment on my legs and feet. And my legs and feet were sore because I was going up and down the stairs instead of taking the elevator very intentionally, since I made it a wellness retreat. I was also in the gym and I was trying to keep moving. And so that was one of the best treatments I have ever had. If you're going on the Oasis of the Seas or any of the Royal Caribbean ships and they offer you that leg and foot treatment, it's actually in their salon. And they put your feet in, like, when they're going to do it like a pedicure bowl. And then she uses all these different scrubs and treatments. And oh my gosh, I will get that every time that I go on a cruise, that they offer that from now on. The other treatment that was the best out of all 4 treatments for me was also a coupon that they left in my room. And I don't think I've ever seen that before. And the treatment was a facial and massage all in one. And I can't remember if it was 75 minutes, it was somewhere in there. And it was the most complete, amazing massage I think I've ever had in my life. And it was from that same 20-year-old that did my facial, because everything got targeted. You know what I mean? Like nothing got left out. So it was just so complete and so wonderful. And I highly recommend it. Then also on the Oasis of the Seas, they had a protein smoothie. They got a juice bar inside the spa. So if you never passed by the spa, you wouldn't have known there was a juice bar in there. And they made these protein smoothies. I was able to get my protein smoothies and add creatine. I had chocolate and peanut butter or berries or banana and fruit. They had veggie juices, and that was so wonderful. They had a big salon in there also. But for me, I must have spent 10 hours in that room using the steam rooms, the sauna, the little rain showers, and those thermal chairs. Because when I laid down in that thermal chair, I just felt like the most relaxed I've ever felt. And I would go into the steam room for 10 minutes and shower off and then get back on one of those chairs and just zen. Sometimes I took a book with me, but I almost didn't even need to read because I was just so in a meditative space that it was just incredible. On other cruises like Alaska, you can go to some places that have the large thermal suites. They have the big open windows. You can watch for whales and things like that. So if you're cruising, I highly recommend the spa. I highly recommend upgrading to a thermal suite if they have one, because it was just so worth it. They also had a jacuzzi that you could rent for an hour for $99. And then they had I forget what it was called, but it was some kind of self-scrub room where you could scrub yourself all with all these salts and things, and then you go rinse off. Something Azul. And then you go rinse off in their little shower. That was an upgrade, and they did not have a solo person upgrade. They only had a 2-person upgrade, which I thought was crazy, and it wasn't worth it to me to sit in the jacuzzi for an hour. I don't really sit in a jacuzzi for an hour by myself, so I didn't do that one. But loved the spa. I'm going to come back and talk to you all about the other features on the cruise, but I wanted to hit the spa features today. Oasis of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. Highly recommend that thermal suite and those treatments. Talk to you soon.